This program is powered by thevirtual.show, making your offline events virtual. Ladies and gentlemen, the host of WEBIT Virtual, Dr. Plamen Russev.
Hello and welcome back to WEBIT Virtuals on Venture Capital. And now we have the person whose family created that industry. And we're going to talk together with Tim Draper, the legendary investor of the future of what his grandfather built somewhere back in the 60s. Is that right, Tim?
50s, but yes, my grandfather was the first venture capitalist in the Silicon Valley. And my dad was a great pioneer of venture capital. And now all three of my four children are venture capitalists.
You're a dynasty. You're a venture capital dynasty. And
yeah, we have really loved being a part of this industry. We love entrepreneurs. We love what they do. They take a crisis like this and then they take us to a new place that none of us ever imagined would happen. And it's been a wonderful career. I've been able to travel all over the world with it. Kind of had a mission of spreading venture capital around the world. So thank you all, venture capitalists and entrepreneurs, for wherever you may be. For doing what you do. It's a wonderful thing to be a part of.
Coinbase, Robinhood, Twitch TV, Skype, Tesla, Baidu, Hotmail, SolarCity, SpaceX. It's an endless list of success, Tim, and I'm so honored that you have accepted our invitation, not only to join us in this particular program and session, but to become the honorary chair of the WEBIT Venture Forum, which unfortunately this year is not going to take place as planned in June in Valencia, but still we have you with us. You are leading spokesperson of Bitcoin, blockchain, ICOs, cryptocurrencies, having won the Bitcoin US Marshall back in 2014, and leading the largest ICOs. We play a game here, Tim. I'm asking questions, and now we behave like we reverse the game. We give 3 minutes to our participants to give answers to the hardest questions that we got ready for them. And the first one for you is, as you stated earlier this month, that the pandemic could be the tipping point for the Bitcoin industry. What would be the developments you see in that particular area?
Well, I think the virus has, by keeping us all inside, has gotten our creativity running, and while venture capital may not be as readily available for everyone that's starting a business, the customer is more open to new ideas. When everything's going kind of well, and normally people don't experiment as much, they don't try new things. But now the consumer is looking and saying, well, wait, what are these things that I've been missing that so people are putting on VR headsets. They're trying new games on VR. They're trying, they're experimenting. They're finally putting together a Bitcoin wallet and seeing what all this hubbub is about. This is the kind of catalyst that happened back in 2001, where people started to use Amazon, and then all of a sudden it was just a flood of people. Before that, they were all complaining that Amazon was stealing their credit card or doing whatever. It was a little like what they were doing with talking about data before this crash happened. Now they realize, hey, there are some really interesting things out there. There are new ways of doing things. Bitcoin, the blockchain, smart contracts, artificial intelligence, all these new technologies can potentially transform the biggest industries in the world. And I believe that entrepreneurs that are getting started today or maybe a year ago have the potential to build a $10 trillion business. I think that the industries that are going to be transformed over the next 10 years are at least an order of magnitude bigger than the ones that were transformed by the internet itself.
I want to bring you back in time, really for a very brief answer, but I believe it's very much relevant to the current time. Why did Drapers invested back a long time ago in BTC? What was the single driver that you decide you followed that and you did it?
Well, it started in 2004. I met a guy from Korea who said that half the people of Korea were playing this one game, a virtual game, and he even hired a guy to be his avatar in that game while he was working. And I thought, wow, people are going to live in this virtual world, and then they're going to work in the physical world. They're going to have kind of two lives. And then I thought virtual world, virtual real estate, virtual healthcare, virtual money, and so I was focused on that for quite a while. And when Bitcoin came, at first I thought the money would come from different games that would start to communicate, and then they'd trade this money for this money. But instead, Bitcoin came, and they made a universal, decentralized, open, transparent, global, beautiful technology that allowed for a currency that we can all use. And along with that came the blockchain and smart contracts that bring even more technology forward. But the thing that got me going was I had a bunch of Bitcoin, and it was stored at Mt. Gox, and Mt. Gox had that big theft. And I thought, oh, well, that must be the end of it. Too bad. Oh, well. And Bitcoin only dropped about 10 or 15% on the news that the biggest exchange just disappeared the money. And I thought, wow, they must really need this. And so then I really dug in, and I started to buy Bitcoin. And then there was this marshal's office auction that allowed somebody to buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and I was the only one stupid enough to buy to bid above market. And turned out it was below market for now, but it was above market then. And I got the whole thing. There were 9 lots. I got the whole thing. I wasn't expecting the whole thing.
I never heard someone in the world calling Tim Draper stupid, but it's good to have a self-irony on that. Which sectors do you look now? We talk now about the past. Obviously, there were enough reasons for you to make that move, which definitely was a huge success and basically spin off a lot of your investments. But what about now? Which sectors are you currently looking at under this crisis situation? What kind of opportunities do you see? And that would help a lot of our visitors. I'm always
before I mention what I'm kind of hoping to see, I've got to be honest and say that where we make most of our money from the best investments, where we seed a company that becomes enormous, is in a category we call other. It's the category that no one expected. So I think whatever I say here might have some influence, but the 10,000 viewers today and all of their friends and all of their friends are probably coming up.
11,600, Tim.
They're going to be even bigger than anything I can imagine. But here's what I'm looking at. I'm thinking, wow, these technologies, artificial intelligence with the big data and the deep learning, combined with smart contracts, can absolutely transform the insurance world. So I think that's kind of interesting. You can use data to do diagnostics for healthcare and do a better job than any individual doctor could possibly do. You can use computational biochemistry for therapeutics and do a better job than the drug companies are currently doing on getting drugs that are specific to you and your ailment. Most of what government does is insurance, and I think governments are going to have to compete with each other through most of the things that they provide, the product services that they provide that are virtual. Yeah. So anything like Social Security, healthcare insurance, pension insurance, any of these insurance packages are now going to be competitive, because it doesn't matter if you're in a geographic territory when the product can be virtual and global. So that's going to change, and that's a big industry. Government is a big industry, and those services are going to be provided globally, not just tied to some geographic border. Those geographic borders are now they're a relic of the past when we were very tribal, but all of you know that this is very much a global world. The business world is completely global, and any trade wars or barriers or whatever are limiting our ability to do business and actually getting in the way. So that's kind of all government can do right now, is get in the way of real progress. I think with new technology, governments can provide services that we all want, and we can pick and choose which government provides it. And then banking, finance, commerce, all of those are going to be completely transformed, because I see a time when I can raise a Bitcoin fund, just Bitcoin, invest Bitcoin into all these companies of all different types, have them pay their employees and suppliers in Bitcoin, and then I no longer require an audit, accounting, the legal work, the transfer agent. Any of those things have to that we have to do now when we do a distribution, and I can count on it, the entire waterfall, to be completely honest. And I can do that all because I do it all through a smart contract. I think that world is coming, and I think we're all going to be on a Bitcoin blockchain, or a blockchain of some sort, some crypto blockchain.
Yes.
And I think we are, and smart contracts, whether it's Tezos or Ethereum or whatever, we're going to be able to operate our businesses through contracts that are built into software, so that there will be very little room for dispute. And I think that will be a very much more healthy business world. And then I think while the governments are trying to cling, many governments are trying to cling to tribalism now, I think we're going to have that clinging for a while, because the old generation has to die off. The new generation has to come up and realize that, hey, we're all global, and we're going to see, 10, 20 years from now, we're going to actually see a very peaceful, loving, and open, transparent world. And I think that is a beautiful thing, and it's going to be driven by you entrepreneurs. All of you entrepreneurs have a big opportunity right now.
Amen. Amazing. Thank you so much, Tim, for this. And I tried to interrupt you only once to say one thing, that you were the one that said, Plamen, regardless if there is going to be a WEBIT in Valencia, I will be there on 17th, 20th of June. So you don't care about viruses, do you?
No, I run with a herd. I think in herd immunity. I think we should have herd immunity, and that's how we've survived over all these times. And if we try to protect ourselves individually from a virus like this, the next one will come and just wipe us out worse. I think we need the herd to kind of protect ourselves from this long term. Short term, I get it. Maybe you need to flatten the curve to keep the hospitals from being over flooded. Yes. I get that, but long term, you want to make sure that the herd gets that immunity. And I find I travel so much. I'm exposed to so many germs and so many diseases and all that, and I feel like I'm the healthiest person on the earth. And I think it's because it's because I feel the herd immunity. I hug people, shake their hands, give them big kisses, and I want to get back to that. I'm trapped here, and I want to get back to that.
I'm sending you a virtual hug, so that's
that almost worked. That almost worked, but I need your germs.
This work is going to come soon, but whatever it is, yeah. Well, so, I would like to give an advice to someone, Tim, please. We talk about the startups. I want we know how is that the right English word? You're a hardcore when it comes to the open market, the free market, the lack of regulation. You go there and do whatever we know that. That's Tim Draper. Now, but we also know you're fundraising. You didn't say this, but I know it. I would like to help. We have a lot of LPs now. We have people from all around the world, and I know you work with the whole world. So hopefully that will be an opportunity. What would be your advice to your colleagues in the venture industry, how they approach now to LPs in that time of crisis?
Oh, how they approach LPs? I'm always better with the entrepreneur than with the LP. For some reason, raising money I love doing it. I love meeting the people and raising money but I feel like it doesn't. I'm not a natural. I'm maybe too scary for them. But I'll tell you, so far the results are really, really good. I think for venture capitalists, you have an interesting job because while entrepreneurs are completely wild and trying new things and jumping off cliffs and doing crazy things, most of the people who invest in venture capital are really very careful and they don't want to lose money, and that's kind of more their role than trying to maximize the amount of money that they make, and not losing money and going into all these wild people who are going to drop all this, half of them will go out of business. That translation is sort of like Martian to Venusian. I think that the two don't speak very well together. So you have to translate this to this and back. I find that in fundraising, I need to tone down my wild side, and in working with entrepreneurs, I need to rev it up. And so I think that's what I would recommend to venture capitalists. Now, the other thing I would do with venture capitalists is I would quickly go to your portfolio, shore it up, figure out which ones you really want to support and support those, and then encourage the other ones to go out somewhere else for their money and do it now. And then focus on what is the world going to look like next. I think after they get over this hurdle, this suppression that we're under. It's like the Great Suppression.
That's already been tweeted.
I think we need to project out 5 years. And in order to project out 5 years, you have to really think 15 years out, to where people are flying in jetpacks, and you have to really project out there when you're putting your money to work now, because if there is a recession for 3 or 4 years, and I agree with Hendrik that is probably coming, that you've got to make sure that the companies you're supporting now are going to be around that long, and you're going to probably have to support them for that period of time.
Yeah,
and for entrepreneurs today,
you have to stop in 5 minutes. And Karen, your PA, you have to stop. You have a hard stop in 5 minutes. And your wonderful PA, who is phenomenal for so many years, making sure that you're doing what you're doing, will kill me if you don't make the hard stop. So
she's as tough as they get. I like having her bouncer.
She's amazing.
Amazing.
That's the team. That's the
but
team.
Thank you for that. So
I would like to introduce to you Leisha, who is a second big fan here of yours among us. And I promised her that she will ask you a number of questions, and she has only 4 minutes for her 7 questions. So Leisha, you'd better start now, please.
Well, Tim, I know that your family were among the first to invest in China. So I know you're quite controversial in terms of being very vocal about the mass shutdowns and having to go back to business really quickly. And even you saying the old generation dying off. I'm sure you know how controversial that is to many people. But I want to come to
Hey, it's okay. I can say it. I'm old.
Well, we want to keep everyone around. I think that's fair to say. But I want to come back to your Bitcoin position, because you have said that you've been out of the market for 6 months and that you are quite heavily invested.
No, not out of the Bitcoin market. I'm buying Bitcoin.
Oh, yes.
No, I've been out of the stock market. Yeah, the public market makes no sense. It costs $5 million a year just to comply with all the stupid regulations they have. You got to be a $10 billion business for that.
Well, exactly. You have to be very big, but you're predicting that by early 2023, Bitcoin could be at $250,000. But
yeah.
But that is obviously being treated by a lot of the mainstream with a healthy dose of skepticism, especially when people like Warren Buffett come out and say the counter argument. And so
Warren Buffett owns a lot of cash, and he owns 50-60% of his portfolio is in banks. Who's going to want Bitcoin if your money's all in banks? I mean, if your money's in banks, you're counting on that 2.5 to 4% every time somebody swipes a credit card. If you don't get that, all of a sudden, all those banks and Warren Buffett go straight down the tubes. So of course he's going to be going, no, this Bitcoin. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Bitcoin, it's so clear. You look at where he stands, and then you realize, well, what he says is tied to that. He's never really liked technology. So Apple, Google, Facebook, Netflix, whatever. He says poo-pooed all that technology stuff. Of course, it's the 6 of the 10 biggest companies in the world today.
Well, there are people who think we are already in a recession. And if the projections are correct that this could be a multi-year, very deep recession, then people are going to look for safe havens. And your position is that Bitcoin and other cryptos are safe havens. But again, given the huge amount of volatility—
they're the safe havens of the future. The safe havens of the past are gold, but you're not going to be able to use gold to buy your coffee. You're going to need some currency of the future, and the currency of the future is clearly Bitcoin. It's actually the currency of the now. It just hasn't spread, it hasn't proliferated as far as it probably will over the next 5 or 6 years.
But given this crisis, the coronavirus crisis is highlighting and possibly exacerbating the economic inequality in societies all around the world. There are a lot of people who will not be able to afford Bitcoin or other crypto at $9,000, $10,000, and they are looking—
Wait. No, you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. You can buy 3 Satoshis for, I don't know how much it costs, about 12 cents. You got it completely wrong. You can go down 8 decimal points is on Bitcoin. You don't have to own a full Bitcoin. I don't know what you're thinking.
No, but
you can own a partial, any little piece of a Bitcoin is perfectly good currency.
But I'm talking about in terms of the projection where it becomes mainstream. I think maybe in terms of the years or the period that you're looking at, is that still a bit preliminary? And should we be looking more at impact investing? So looking at putting money into things that can help firms that are helping with healthcare, helping with climate.
Yeah, I think all those things. But I think you're missing something. Bitcoin is impact. Think of the impact of taking all that friction that the banks create and eliminating it. All of a sudden, the markets open up. The world becomes wealthier day one, and it becomes, as we create all of that liquidity, the world opens up and we don't have all these friction items. And boy, talk about impact. That could have an enormous impact on the world. And think about this, it's a global currency. It's transparent, it's open, it keeps perfect records. All of that friction that goes into the accounting and the auditing and the lawyering and all that that's going to be gone, and you will have a whole new world that's completely open and transparent. This is I can't think of a bigger impact than what Bitcoin is going to do for the world over the next 4 or 5 years. I think you're going to get great impact investing from using artificial intelligence and data and smart contracts and blockchain. All those new technologies are going to have big impact on our healthcare, on the environment, on everything you imagine. You know, weather control.
Sorry, Leisha, excuse me. I know with Tim and with all our panelists, we can speak for hours, but we're over time. But I would like to invite all of you now. Tim, you have 1 more minute before I got killed. I would like to have everyone with us now. One sentence only, wrap up. Just one sentence wrap up from all of you, to start with Tim. Tim, how do you see the next 1 year?
The next 1 year, first I got to say, come see Meet the Drapers. We have a big show. Everybody can invest, and it's we've got 6 million people now. It's a hit. You can see my dad and me and my sister, my kids, all interviewing these entrepreneurs. It's fantastic. You invest. It's like Shark Tank, but you can invest from your desk chair. What do I see happening out there? I see an amazing creative spark that will be happening because we've all been trapped in place for a while. We're going to sort of go burst out in new ways, and we're going to have new ways of looking at the world. A lot of people will have explored VR. A lot of people will have explored crypto wallets. A lot of people will have explored new ways of thinking about their business. They've been able to focus more, and I think we're going to see a great burst of creativity. And that said, we're also seeing, you know, every week this virus they keep the lockdown on is adding 6 million people to the unemployment roll. Well, that's a tragic. It also creates sort of an interesting opportunity for people to change jobs, try something that might be more relevant to them, more relevant to the future. So when there is a tragedy like this, there's always a silver lining. I think there is a silver lining coming. I think we're going to have 4 or 5 years that are going to be very difficult on a lot of people, but we're going to come out of it much, much better.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure and honor having you with us, and hope to see you again very soon. With that positivism, I'm sure that more people like you will make it happen. Thank you so much.
Terrific. And Leisha, if you ever want to interview me, give me a call. And everybody out there, tim@draper.vc, but don't send me an email unless you have a full-blown business plan.
Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you for being with us, and wishing you health. That's all about it. I would like to request now wrap up and one sentence from our 2 other great participants, Hendrik and Javier. Hendrik, how would you wrap up this 1 hour of discussion between us? What is the next 1 year?
I deeply believe technology will save the world, and as Tim said, I think the disruption we go through now will drive creativity in many, many dimensions. I couldn't agree more with that, and I think that is the core of the opportunity. Technology will rescue and will help to cure the climate change challenge. All big problems of the world, I think, can only be changed and only be solved through technology. And the entrepreneurs and the venture capital investors are in the midst of that ecosystem and that development. I perceive it as a great privilege to be in that industry. Yes, we might go through some challenging years, but I couldn't agree more with Tim. I think we will be coming out of that stronger than ever, and I see a really, really good future.
Thank you so much, Henrik. And I like that optimism. We missed one question, but that's for the next time when you join us to speak about European investment scene and how well it grows and how better it is compared to the American one. But let's not pull now the lecture of Tim. Not now. We're about to finish that, so we're not starting.
We keep that for the next time.
Next time we definitely talk about. We start with that. I promise. And Javier, you're 1 year in advance. How do you see it?
I have to coincide with my fellow panelists here. Is all about innovation. I think this crisis is going to spark innovation, is going to spark an acceleration of technology adoption, things that we were planning to see in the market in 2 years or 5 years. Maybe we're going to see them in the next 9 to 12 months. We're going to see a lot of innovation that is going to help us, cope with this new reality on how we travel, how we interact, how we are in a living space or a working space. It's going to be a huge opportunity for venture capital, private equity to invest on companies that are going to benefit from what's going to happen in the next 2 years. It's going to be tough. Economy suffering, but from the innovation point of view, no better time to be on the investment side.
Great. Thank you so much. So you're all on the right side, obviously. I would like to have Leisha now, wrapping up our discussion from her point of view. Leisha, what do you think? Are they all very full of energy and, people who believe they can change the world? And how does it look to you? Because they should be, and we all must be like this.
I love the optimism, and barring a major conflict breaking out, let's hope that we can get through this lockdown soon. And I do agree that innovation will drive the way forward. Just look at this conference when we were all supposed to be together in person, and hopefully that technology can be harnessed for the greater good and the vulnerable and the less well off. Because as we saw with the last financial crisis, there was a real backlash against the banks and others who were helped out, and hopefully there's no repeat this time around. And so I look forward to what the VC community is going to do.
That's the right community to look at, Leisha. You know exactly where to put your eyes on. Thank you so much for all of you for being here. I love these optimistic sessions and programs we host at WEBIT Virtual, because as you know, I am the symbol of pronoia. It's the opposite of paranoia. I do believe in the global conspiracy for the good of humankind, and I'm honestly following that belief every single day. Now deep in the mountain, I am connected with some of the brightest people in the world, and all of you, dear wonderful Webiters from all around the world. We hit the 12,000 number, and that's amazing. I only look forward to add more value to you and to add more and more of the opportunities to connect and to collaboratively create the desirable future. Thank you all for being together. I am honored to have you and the WEBIT community. Thank you.
This program is powered by thevirtual.show, making your offline events virtual.